The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome. Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and information that Feds need to know in 15 minutes-ish or less. So whether you're a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, we've got you covered. So grab your coffee, your energy drink, your green juice, whatever gets you started in the morning, kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know but might have missed. I am your host, Dan Sipe, and I am joined by the omnipresent Katelyn Murray.
Omnipresent? That sounds threatening. I like it.
No, it means you're everywhere.
I know. I know.
You are truly everywhere.
Everywhere. Always.
Everywhere. Everywhere, every time, all at once.
Yes. Honestly, a good subtitle for my biopic. So we can recycle that one in a couple of years. Yes. Wonderful. All right. Well, so Dan is still in his dark attire. Unfortunately, this week.
Yes. It is my sincere hope. I'll say it again because we record these and then they go up later. Mm-hmm. I know we're not supposed to have time and space on these things. It is my sincere hope that somewhere in here, someone is going to go, "Hey, you old coot, why you in black? It's over." So it's
Fingers
time,
crossed.
folks. It's past time. You know, it always ends the same way. The group making the demand stops making the demand. Mm-hmm. And both sides are wrong when they do it. So knock it off, pass the CR, get back to work. Nobody's going to get everything they want.
Yep. That's life, right?
That's what I got.
All right.
So what are we covering today?
So this week, we've got a couple of interesting pieces on the blog. A piece about housing in the DMV, not necessarily DMV, DC, San Francisco, New York City. You know, we have feds everywhere. But I say DMV just because, you know, that's kind of my frame of reference. And it is definitely wild. It's been a topic, actually, interestingly, that's come up in a couple financial planning meetings recently with feds concerned about kind of housing costs and navigating the dynamics of that. And then I'm going to talk a little bit later on about the 2026 pay raise. We're going to talk a bit about, you know, whether that's looking like it may keep up with costs. So we'll talk a bit about that in just a few minutes. But before then, Dan, talk to us about housing.
You know, here's the thing, and our article's entitled "A Federal Employee Housing Crisis." And by the way, for those of you not around the District of Columbia, we are not talking about the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yes,
okay.
That's
it's
fair.
District, Maryland, and Virginia.
Yes.
So I have to pinch myself, Katelyn. We're global. We're global. So for our folks in the Philippines, that's what DMV means. Being expensive around DC has been a fact of life for my entire career. Okay. So I've often joked, I don't think I've ever shared, maybe I have. I'm originally from Pittsburgh. My family moved here when I was 3. And one of the jokes I have with my cousins in Pittsburgh is that when the zombie apocalypse comes, I'm going to Pittsburgh. Because George Romero, the author-director of Night of the Living Dead and that whole series, launched the zombie apocalypse genre, based it all around Pittsburgh. Including one where they bunkered in the Monroeville Mall. So Pittsburgh's been fighting zombie apocalypse for, 60 years. So I'm going there. Well, DMV has been wrestling with this stuff for my entire career. So a couple of tips that I'm going to throw around here. We're used to it. And we're not the only ones. San Francisco, New York City, there are plenty of places where the urban areas are outpacing federal pay increases. Locality pays help, but they don't fully offset. And so there's a growing strain that more and more feds are seeing because this is spreading across the country. So, and it really hits the entry and mid-level feds more than anybody else. And even specialized roles with the higher incomes are facing that. So practical strategies. This is not something that I'm saying is going to be your favorite thing to do. Okay. Number one, if you're young, you're single, roommates. Okay. Way to lower those expenses. But the other part is start looking further out. Literally, my feds from this area are used to the 1 hour more commute. And even though we're with a back to the office mandate, many times you can get a flexible schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be on the road earlier, coming home earlier, things like that. So you're outside of the rush hour. And you will have the opportunities to get a more affordable house, but you're trading that time. That's where your Audible program is going to be University on Wheels. We've talked about that.
Fed15. You can
and
listen
the
to us.
The Fed15, absolutely. And FedLife, for those deeper dives.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can trade that. Now, some agencies do offer some support. Check with your group. Okay. And I do believe that telework is not going to be a dirty word for the next 30 years in federal service. There's been a pendulum swing that will settle out. On the financial planning side, don't cross that Maginot line of 30% of gross pay for your housing costs. It's going to come back to haunt you sooner or later if you do. And don't sacrifice long-term contributions to TSP to cover rent and mortgage. One of the things we recommend, in addition to emergency funds, build into that a housing stability fund. So that can be a cushion against rent spikes. There are resources, EAPs and housing and urban development counseling. Get with a CFP that understands federal benefits. Okay. That person is going to be able to walk you through a realistic budget approach to housing because everybody does need a place to live. So long-term things also to think about. Housing markets shift. So don't be bashful about considering renting if you're not finding the right place for you right now. Career mobility. You may be able, as you advance through your career, to relocate to a more affordable area. So take those federal employee dollars to a place that's not quite as built up. And return to office trends and regional pay changes are probably going to be fluid. Okay, so don't try and base everything on what could be a short-term thing that we're going to be passing through. So even in high-cost market areas, proactive steps can help you. Explore housing programs, low-interest loans, maintain those TSB contributions, stay on top of your budget, plan with flexibility. Okay, so our feds can protect their finances and peace of mind by blending smart housing choices with that long-term planning. And one of the things that can certainly help, I'm not sure it's going to help in 2026, is we start getting some realistic raises here. So, Katelyn, what's on tap for us there?
Well, we'll see, right? So we've got at Serving Those Who Serve, we keep a really, really close eye on these pay raise updates for our feds. We keep a close eye on COLAs for our retired feds. And looking at the 2026 federal pay raise outlook as it stands at present, 2026 might be a little bit of a disappointing year. I'm sure this surprises no one who, has been in the federal landscape for the past year or so. The White House has submitted a 1% across the board raise. This is the smallest raise since 2021. Grain of salt here. Inflation is also in a dramatically different place than it was in 2022, 2023, 2023, right? So we had some really high inflation years, and to go with that, we had some high pay raises to keep things kind of on pace.
Sure.
Now inflation is a little bit more under control, but we're still seeing quite a cut in the pay raise, right? OPM recommended a much higher adjustment. The administration cited fiscal restraint and curbing federal spending. Certain law enforcement officers, I will kind of include this caveat, they may see a 3.8% raise, which would be in alignment with what the military is looking at as far as raises. And that is justified as a retention and recruitment tool by the administration. So OPM's recommendations for 2026, they were looking at a 3.3% across the board raise, 18.88% average locality adjustment in those metropolitan areas that Dane was just talking about.
Sure.
Those folks, they had recommended over 20% because of the dynamics of the economy in those places. The goal here would be obviously to align federal pay with the private sector to improve recruitment and retention across all civilian Fed organizations. Now, the issue, of course, is that, the president can override with an alternative pay plan, which is that 1% that was proposed, that was submitted August 30th of 2025. So just to kind of refresh your memory, we talked about that being the smallest raise since 2021. In 2022, we saw 2.7% increase, 2023, 4.6% increase, and 2024, a whopping 5.2% increase, 2% in 2025. Again, it follows that kind of inflation curve.
Gotcha.
So, some reduction is just attributable to a reduction in inflation. Some reduction is administrative policy. So what do we do about it, right? What are the planning implications for our feds? It's very likely that your annual pay raise is not going to keep pace with inflation or private sector wage growth this year. Currently, inflation is at about 3%. So a 1% raise is not quite getting the job done, right? So what do? We need to review budgets. I do this on a quarterly basis myself, right? I'm not a Fed, but on a quarterly basis, I sit down, I go through all of my expenses, because you would be amazed how easy it is to have lifestyle creep, how easy it is to sign up for a free trial of something and, plan to cancel it a week later. And now you've paid for Hulu for 3 months and you had no idea because it was going to a credit card that you don't look at, one, or you put everything on and it just got lost in the shuffle, right? So quarterly, sit down, print all your credit card statements, print your bank statement. I'm talking paper. I'm in a physical media moment in my life. So print it out on paper, get the old school highlighter, and just go through and highlight anything that is unnecessary, that doesn't, serve you, and that you could maybe cut, because that's going to mean more in your pocket. Double check your childcare costs, look at your commuting costs, see if you can ride share with somebody in those metropolitan areas. If you are commuting, partner up. It's good for your wallet and it's good for the environment.
Sure.
Revisit those TSP contributions. I know it's just a 1% raise, but you were living on what you were making before. If you can put that extra 1% towards your TSP, it is going to get you further. Okay? It's building your financial independence and your financial freedom. It's important. Consider the impact on your high three, right? Every raise, however small it might be, is increasing your pension projection. So when you need that hope to keep going, double check that, right? Or talk to a Fed-focused fiduciary advisor who can do that for you. Avoid assuming annual growth. We are coming off of, and this is recency bias, okay? This is financial psychology 101, my wheelhouse. We are coming off of several years, we just went through the percentages, of very high pay increases. So to get 1% when 2 years ago we were looking at 5.2 feels like a slap in the face. Contextualize it, digest it, move forward. It feels like a bigger drop than if you were coming off of 2%, 3%, what have you. Okay? Understand that impact on your psyche and why it feels so bad. Okay? Sometimes naming the thing has a whole lot of power. And then just kind of on a looking forward basis, you want to strategically integrate each raise, however big or small, to help stabilize your long-term financial plan. Okay? So what is next on the pay raise update stuff that we'll be looking for OPM and the agencies will define the law enforcement roles that are going to be qualifying for the 3.8% raise. Congress could intervene with this, but typically, historically, they deferred to the White House plan. However, it's important to acknowledge Congress could intervene. And the final raise often lands somewhere between the OPM rec and the presidential plan. Okay. So
Gotcha.
Just to remind you, the recommended rate was 3.3. Presidential plan is 1. We could end up settling out somewhere around 2%, which would put us on pace with the 2025 raise. All right. So don't lose hope. Keep your chin up and plan for how you're going to make that 1% or 2% or 3% work for you in the long run.
Absolutely. And wow, paper and highlighter. You really could be one of my children.
Listen, I love a good highlighter. I love a good, you got yours. Listen,
yep.
I love a good quality highlighter. As I show this non-name brand thing.
I got me different colors, everything. So.
Oh yeah. No, we've got a lavender in here somewhere, and we've got a peach. I mean, I've got them all. Anyway. That's all the time that we have for this episode of the Fed15. As much as I'd like to go through and categorize my highlighter collection with you, I'll spare you for that. But you know that Dan and I will be back next week to bring all the latest updates that you need to make informed decisions about your career and your financial well-being as a Fed.
And if you're watching this thing, subscribe to this sucker. Pretty please with sugar on top. Whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, so you never miss an episode. And please remember to share it with your friends and colleagues.
Absolutely. And for more information on the topics that we covered in today's show and more, so much more, be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com. While you're there, you can subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, to get all the latest news for Feds delivered straight to your inbox every single week.
And Katelyn, don't forget those live webinars that we are just cranking out every single month. 2 that our folks won't want to miss. First is on November 4th from 1 till 4. That's our most popular FERS webinar. I'll be hosting that, so you're stuck with me. And then on November 7th from 11 till 2, we have the number 2 most popular, which is TSP, and that is hosted by the amazing Jen Meyer. So sign up for one, sign up for all. You'll be glad you did, and share that with your friends. They will thank you. And if you are looking for a more personalized approach to your education and understanding, you can hit us up at meetings@stwserve.com, and we will gently shepherd you through the whole process on a one-on-one basis so you understand all your benefits and can get the most out of it.
For sure. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Fed15. I'm Katelyn Murray.
And I'm Dan Sight.
And we will see you next week.